So you're probably wondering how I got here. Well, I've lost the will to live. I saw something that was so terrible, I just couldn't take it anymore. You see, I watched the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, and I'm quite literally at the end of my rope. But before I die, I think it's only honourable that I warn the world how awful Sponge on the Run truly is. I mean, it's the least I can do. So strap yourself in, ladies and gents, because this is going to be a wild ride. SpongeBob is a character who needs no introduction. He's been around since 1999 and is still going strong to this day. With 13 seasons, it's only natural that a few movies would be released alongside them. And that brings us to Sponge on the Run, the third SpongeBob movie and by far the worst. We begin this lackluster adventure, and not 5 seconds in, there's already something that annoys me. The narration.
A place of unparalleled beauty and fecundity.
Did you hear that? It's not the right narrator. How did they screw that up? If you're going to make a SpongeBob movie, you have to use the iconic narrator. That's just a missed opportunity. The plot starts with SpongeBob doing some random activities around the town, including yoga at the Krusty Krab for some unknown reason. He then heads into work, annoys Squidward a bit, and the Krusty Krab opens for the day. Meanwhile, Plankton is spying on the Krusty Krab, thinking of a new scheme to get the secret formula. This is very reminiscent of the first SpongeBob movie, where Plankton does the same thing. Throughout this movie, you will notice that a majority of the plot points are stolen right from the first movie, but not done nearly as well. Karen, his computer wife, tells him that the reason his plans keep failing is because of SpongeBob. However, Plankton doesn't believe her, and continues preparing his newest scheme. Back at the Krusty Krab, Sandy gives Mr. Krab a robot that he immediately gets rid of when it tries to fire him.
You're fired.
What?
Don't make me call security.
He throws it in Plankton's trash, and Karen ends up taking it inside. Later that night, Plankton attempts to steal the formula, only to be stopped by SpongeBob, who doesn't even notice Plankton is there. Plankton then realizes that Karen was indeed correct, and SpongeBob is the only thing stopping him from getting his hands on the secret formula. We then cut to yet another blatant ripoff of the first movie, King Poseidon. He is a blatant ripoff of King Neptune. He's obsessed with his appearance just like King Neptune was. He freaks out over a wrinkle just like King Neptune did over being bald. Really creative stuff here. I didn't love the second SpongeBob movie either, but at least it's unique. Anyway, King Poseidon is mad because there are no more snails to fix his wrinkles. He sends off a decree to find a new one, and who stumbles upon it but Plankton? Now here is where the writing is worse than the first movie. In that movie, Plankton actually got the king involved because his plan demanded it. Here, Plankton just happens to stumble upon this message, and conveniently it's something he can manipulate to his advantage. It just comes off as lazy. SpongeBob gets home to find out Gary is missing. This sends him into a meltdown as he searches all over town for him. And what do you know, yet another ripoff. Not from the first movie this time, however. This is from an old episode called Gary Come Home, where SpongeBob does the same thing. Just another reason why this movie lacks creativity. SpongeBob then thinks back to the first time he met Gary, and we get the bombshell that really pisses me off about this movie. It's nothing but a stupid backdoor pilot for Camp Coral, disguised as a movie. And the annoying part is, it didn't even need to be. I was actually glad they mixed the animation style up when I saw the promotional posters for this movie. At least I was, until I learned it only looks like that to look more like Camp Coral. They only made the animation style unique from the other SpongeBob media because they wanted to shoehorn in these unbearable Camp Coral references. Trust me, it gets way worse from here, but we'll get into that later. Next up, Patrick comes over to SpongeBob's house and finds him upset that Gary is missing. Patrick then finds a clue as to Gary's whereabouts. And this is so lazy yet again. In the first SpongeBob movie, there's an actual setup to send SpongeBob and Patrick off on their adventure. Here, Patrick finds a clue that tells them everything 5 seconds after walking into SpongeBob's house. Why is it written like this? Was this the first draft or something? Also, seriously, more similarities to the first SpongeBob movie. I'm sorry people, it just comes up so often. In the first movie, SpongeBob and Patrick head off to Shell City, a faraway and dangerous land. And now, they're heading off to Atlantic City, a faraway and dangerous land. Seriously? They just went and copied the first movie but changed it up a bit. Moving on, Plankton sends SpongeBob and Patrick off on their journey with the robot Krabs chucked out as their personal driver. A little into the journey, SpongeBob and Patrick discuss their adventure.
This is gonna be like one of those buddy movies. We're the buddies.
Not sure that really applies, Patrick, but
Why not?
Feels more to me like the journey of a singular hero who, against all odds, triumphs over adversity.
Why is SpongeBob such a douche to Patrick here? Seems a little out of character. It just really confused me when I saw it. SpongeBob is just so self-obsessed here when he usually agrees with Patrick or at least is nice to him. Just kind of a dick move. This causes them to fight, but nothing comes out of it, so the whole sequence could have been cut from the movie without losing anything. Back at Bikini Bottom, the Krusty Krab is going to hell without SpongeBob around. Even Squidward seems to want SpongeBob back. And now we get to one of my least favourite scenes in the entire movie. Not that there's a very high bar or anything, but Patrick and SpongeBob arrive at Gorner Gulch, and it's nothing but an excuse to have celebrity cameos. I love Keanu Reeves as much as the next guy, but it's still cheap. Why is he even helping them? It's not explained, and it comes out of absolutely nowhere. In the first movie, at least the king's daughter has a reason to help them. This movie doesn't care about setting things up, it just wants Keanu Reeves. And that's just the beginning of this awful scene. As they enter the saloon, there are cowboy pirate zombies. Really? I like random comedy, but for some reason it doesn't work here. Am I even watching SpongeBob? And then Snoop Dogg enters, for God's sake. This whole scene is a waste, I'm serious. I say that because the movie didn't need it. The entire sequence could be taken out of the movie and nothing would change. In fact, the movie would be better without it. Remember the awesome stops in the first movie, like the ice cream monster or the thug tug with the hilarious bubble blowing scene? Not just cheap celebrity cameos that are as shallow as a puddle. Anyway, SpongeBob and Patrick have to defeat this villain named El Diablo to free the ghost pirates. And get this right, he arrives from outside in the middle of the day in sunlight, and then 5 minutes later, they defeat him with sunlight. Are you kidding me? This movie is written so badly, I can't even. Well, they free the ghost pirates and pass the test. Why they needed to pass the test to begin with isn't explained, whatever. Meanwhile, Plankton gets the formula from Mr. Krabs, who has just given up at this point, making this very unsatisfying for Plankton. But don't worry, Plankton, you've already enjoyed this moment in a much, much better movie.
One secret formula to go, please. No, don't trouble yourself. I'll get it.
SpongeBob and Patrick then make it to the lost city of Atlantic, and what an underwhelming journey that was. They had one stupid daydream at the saloon, and then they arrived. What an awesome adventure. Keanu Reeves warns them not to get distracted, but of course they do. Atlantic City is just like Las Vegas pretty much. SpongeBob and Patrick then wake up after partying all night. They look hungover, but not nearly as good as they did in the original. But my question is, why didn't the sage stop them from partying last night? Sure, he warned them, but then he just disappeared. Why did he wait until morning to reappear? A nitpick, I know, but it's so easy to tear this movie apart. Also, SpongeBob and Patrick would be screwed without him. Just takes away from them actually needing to solve problems on their own. Kind of lame in my opinion. Another reason why Keanu Reeves' character just didn't need to be here. SpongeBob and Patrick then accidentally end up on stage right in front of King Poseidon and Gary. After trying to get Gary back, they get chucked in prison. Back again at Bikini Bottom, Sandy is looking for SpongeBob. I mean, she gets more lines here than in the first movie, so I'll give it that. She looks at the house, then the Krusty Krab, and then the TV turns itself on. How convenient. The gang finds out about Gary being kidnapped. They also find out that SpongeBob and Patrick are going to be executed. So they decide to leave to go save him. But before they leave, Plankton comes in and admits he had something to do with this whole ordeal. For some reason, none of the characters are upset at Plankton and just tell him to come along. Okay, why the heck would they act this way? You see how that undermines the stakes of the story? In the first movie, and I know I keep referring to the first movie, but it's seriously so much better. Anyway, that movie had real stakes and you actually felt tension when Mr. Krabs was going to be executed. It was treated as a big deal and Plankton was rightfully punished for it. Why even go out of your way to make Plankton the villain of this movie if you're not going to pay it off in a satisfying way? The characters then go and get the Pattymobile.
To the Pattymobile!
Wait, what? The Pattymobile? No, movie, you got it all wrong. It's called the Paddy Wagon.
The Paddy Wagon.
Is it so much to ask for a little consistency? This is the bare minimum. Anyway, they head off to Atlantic City. Meanwhile, SpongeBob is upset about failing the mission and ends up getting into a fight with Patrick. Nothing really comes out of this. We get another scene with the Keanu Reeves sage, who gives SpongeBob some generic advice.
The courage you seek is inside you.
SpongeBob and Patrick are taken to King Poseidon's stage for their live execution, while the rest of the gang sneaks inside. SpongeBob and Patrick get found guilty. But it's weird that it's a trial, considering it was announced on TV that it was going to be an execution, not a trial. If it was a trial, it means they could possibly have been found innocent. Therefore, it wouldn't be an execution. At least they couldn't announce that prior. Right before Patrick and SpongeBob get whacked, Sandy jumps on stage and comes to SpongeBob's defense. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have made it. We have made it to the absolute worst part of the movie, the bottom of the barrel, the reason I'm hanging myself right now. We have made it to the stupid Camp Coral flashback. And not just one, oh no, we get 4 freaking flashbacks in a row. One for each character, Dick riding SpongeBob, that takes up nearly 10 minutes of runtime. This is the most blatant advertising for the stupid show Camp Coral I've ever seen. Yet again confirming my theory that this movie was made for that purpose. Don't get me wrong, it's fine if they want to make a movie about Camp Coral, but don't announce a new SpongeBob movie only for it to be a cheap advertising tactic. I want a great SpongeBob movie, and this isn't that. After the characters talk about their fond memories with SpongeBob through the Camp Coral flashbacks, SpongeBob comes in his pants, and the cast sing a really forgettable song. They steal Gary and make a break for it. They get chased, hide in a suit of armor, and end up using it as a mech of sorts. Honestly, not a terrible scene. It might be the only good scene in the movie, so yeah, enjoy this small amount of joy when you can. Squidward ends up falling off his building, they try to catch him but miss, and then the robot driver shows back up again, giving them a chance to escape. That doesn't go as planned, and the gang gets confronted by King Poseidon. King Poseidon, however, has had a change of heart and enjoyed the entertainment of their escape so much, he tells them that all charges are dropped and they are free to go, on one condition, that SpongeBob gives him Gary. SpongeBob then has this strange moment where he figures out that the courage is inside of him.
The courage is inside me. Mr. Poseidon, no!
This is weird because it isn't really built up at all. I don't remember SpongeBob really struggling with courage throughout the movie, so this doesn't feel earned. In the first movie, he is constantly going back and forth about being a kid and wanting to be a man. Here, they wanted a moment where SpongeBob overcomes something, but they didn't put in the time to make this an earned moment. So SpongeBob stands up to the king and tells him he has great friends. This causes Poseidon to get upset because it turns out he doesn't have any friends. SpongeBob then says he will be friends with Poseidon and that looks don't matter. Then we get the funniest joke in the movie, so credit where credit is due.
We don't care about little imperfections, or even big ones, just like at Squidward.
What's that supposed to mean?
The king really takes this advice on board as he gets rid of his beautiful features and shows his true self. He then tells SpongeBob he can keep Gary. He also frees all the other snails he had kept as prisoners. Bikini Bottom then becomes a snail refuge, and yay, I guess, so it's a happy ending. Obviously, this is a SpongeBob movie after all. And there you have it, SpongeBob Sponge on the Run. It is a train wreck of a movie. It shamelessly rips off elements from the first movie and fails to deliver on the original and compelling story. The celebrity cameos feel forced and do nothing to enhance the movie's quality. The writing is lazy and the lack of creativity is evident. And the attempts to shoehorn in references to Camp Coral only serve to further alienate longtime fans of the original series. If you're a fan of SpongeBob and his adventures, I recommend sticking to the classic episodes or the first movie. Sponge on the Run is a forgettable and disappointing addition to the SpongeBob franchise, and it's best to avoid it altogether. Your time and sanity are best spent elsewhere. And so there it is, the worst SpongeBob movie, and the reason I'm in this position. But you know what? I don't think I'm going to kill myself anymore. If I kill myself, who will get the word out about awful movies? I think, actually, I know. It's my duty to review bad movies. So subscribe to Critical Cinema and join me for future episodes. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. It means a great deal. Let me know what you think in the comments, leave a like, but most importantly, don't forget to stay critical. And that's the end of the show.